Down to the bottom. Just close that. Just in case. Yeah, it's fine. Watch full screen.
Like this?
Yeah.
Are we on?
We are recording.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to call to order the Ethics Advisory Board meeting of Monday, September 12th, 2022. And we are all present except Brian Eden is trying to get in. He's having some computer issues, so we were giving him a moment to see if he could connect. And if he can't connect over video, he was going to call in. So we should know very soon. I assume he has the phone number, Katrina? Technology. I apologize to all who are waiting. Well, now we've lost Sharon, I see. I assume she's coming back. There she is. I suggest we start. Sorry, Sharon.
Right.
I think we should begin. I've called the meeting to order. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, I do have one change that we've received some advice from our council regarding disclosure of the responses received to date. And I'd like us to consider that immediately after minutes approval. So, because we made a decision, I believe, in our last August meeting, and I was just reading the minutes on that. And he's suggesting we should revisit. I'd like us to discuss and
Rich,
Yeah.
is there an agenda that gets sent out? Or?
yes, I have a paper copy. My hand is sitting on right here, and there's extra copies. But you should have gotten it electronically.
Did not.
Okay.
Brian, can you hear us?
Hold on.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Brian. Thanks.
Thanks. Hi, Brian. Welcome.
I'm sorry about this, Rich. I've been trying for 15 minutes that's why I always like to be present.
I've
So this
been
is
in
the
that
first time.
situation. It's okay.
Yeah,
This is
all
the
right.
world we live
I'll
in.
do my best. All right,
Okay.
thanks, Rich.
And the one thing, Brian, is obviously I can't see you raise your hand. If you have something you want to talk to us about, just barge in. That's the best we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll do that, Rich.
I have no doubt. Okay. And Brian, just before you got on the phone, I was saying I'd like to add an item after minutes approval for us to discuss the decision we made in August regarding disclosure of the responses received to date. And with that change, I don't think there are any others. I would proceed to public comment. And I have one blue card here from Zach Wynn. Zach, if you want to come up to one of these seats so you're near the microphone and can speak with us. Let's just sit right in that chair.
This one right here?
Yes. And you've read the blue card before, so you understand.
I'm well aware.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Zachary Wynn, and I'd like to make the Ethics Board aware of recent statements from councilperson Jeffrey Barkin regarding an article written by Deirdre Cross of Tompkins Weekly. An email released by County Attorney Bill Troy appears to show the County Communications Director requesting a change to an article using statements from legislator Travis Brooks to assert that, quote, there are no current limitations on IPD due to reimagining. Travis Brooks is hardly an objective individual when it comes to reimagining public safety. He was on the original committee appointed by former Mayor Merrick and participated in meetings that were closed to the public and not subject to public records disclosure, as evidenced in an invitation to a May 2nd City County Center for Policing Equity joint meeting that is described in Brock's ethics complaint. These meetings have been described as occurring in secret as part of a secret process by two members of the Community Police Board. As the outcome and ongoing process of reimagining public safety has such major implications, and at least one member of this committee has acknowledged a conflict of interest would be otherwise disqualifying, and the process itself is non-binding. I request that the Ethics Board reach out to the New York State Attorney General's Office of Public Integrity Division and request a separate investigation that would be organized by individuals who are not subject to conflict of interest and could potentially have a binding outcome. With that said, I yield the remainder of my time.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else who wishes to address the Ethics Advisory Board? All right. We have minutes from our August 19th meeting. And could I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
Okay, I'll take Kathleen as the mover and Sharon as a second. Any questions or comments? Because I want to have a discussion in just a moment, I'd point out on the page 4, the second full paragraph from the top. And I'll quote, he spoke, talking about myself, he spoke of the need by the board to make a decision regarding making the information public. He is inclined to make the responses public since the complaint has already been made public. Following a brief discussion, it was determined to release the responses and related documents following the creation of the document, organizing the questions and responses. We are in that process, but there's been a further question on whether we want to proceed with that. We could discuss this in executive session or discuss it publicly. Given the nature of the investigation we're conducting, I would prefer to conduct that discussion publicly, but I would take comment from the 4 of you.
All right. This is Brian. I had suggested that since we don't have all of the filings yet, we're still waiting CPE, and that's a very important filing. I wouldn't want to release these documents piecemeal, which might give an unfavorable impression of one submission or another. So I would rather wait at least until we have all the documents. And the other thing is taking any lessons from the January 6th committee, where they interview all of the parties and then they bring them in for an interview. I would prefer to wait until after we've got all the responses and we've interviewed all the people that are interested in responding to our request for an interview.
Okay. Sharon, Gretchen, Kathleen, what are you guys thinking?
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, here's where I'm coming from on that. Having conducted lots of internal corporate investigations, yes, that's the procedure you'd follow. But given this is a public investigation and it's dragged on since the spring, I'm concerned that we are waiting too long. And once we get the response from CPE, my inclination remains, let's make them public so that the complaint is there and all the written submissions. There might be some issue with helping witnesses to prepare. And that's typically why you wouldn't do this. But because of the actual substance of what we're investigating, which was really a secretive process, I don't want us to be accused of that either. So I'm of two minds on this. I understand regular investigative process, but I also want to be as transparent as we possibly can be. So that's the flip side of that one. And Dan, if you have an opinion there, I know you want to advise us probably to be slower rather than faster. But
so I guess my understanding is that the proposal that's on the table would be to wait until we have at least all of the paper responses and then sort of do one wave of, release the documents essentially, and then proceed to interviews. And once the interviews are completed, sort of release a summary of what those have revealed. Is that sort of what the discussion is?
I think we were talking about releasing the documents. They're
Right.
subject to FOIL, so they could be obtained in any event, but make them all available all at the same time. We are waiting for a response from CPE. I had received communication from an attorney for CPE before the 31st, indicating they needed a couple more days, which I said, that's fine, on my own authority. I then got a further response saying, well, they had some things come up and it's just going to take longer, but it should be next week. But it's now Monday the 12th. So I'm not sure where that stands right now. But presumably we'll get that very soon. When we have that, what's the thinking about?
I'm fine with going ahead and actually, even if based on the delay of CPE, and I've followed, when you initially told us they had a delay, it's like, okay, I get it. And we had the holiday in there, but like you said, today's the 12th. So I understand both sides as well, but I think you could, even if we don't wait for the CPE document, go ahead, like you said, purpose of transparency, it's been dragging on for the spring. We don't need to come across as trying to do something secretive ourselves. And as I think you mentioned at the last meeting, we all care about good government. So let's make it a point to the public that we're doing our responsibility as well. So I'm fine to go that way of releasing all of the responses before or after we get that CPE document, if we ever get it.
Yeah. Hey, Gretchen, what do you think? If I could put you on the spot.
I agree that both sides make sense, and I'm not sure I have a firm opinion on either one. I think I'd be happy with going either way.
Okay, Sharon?
I agree with Gretchen. I mean, when PG, well, I don't think I have a strong will either way. Sorry.
Yeah, if I can respond further, and as I said, I've done investigations, and you don't want to put any cards on the table before you talk to people. So that makes good sense. But I'm not that concerned that the witnesses we'll talk to are going to gain any real information that'll help anybody obscure the facts when they talk to us. I think things are becoming clear enough that we will be able to ask the questions and get the answers we need. But I don't know.
Well, this
So-
is Brian again.
Yep.
Yeah, I just like to interject here. I think our work is going to be subject to further scrutiny by others, which may mean further litigation or audits. And I wanted to have the cleanest process possible. You know, releasing documents piecemeal could threaten that kind of very clear-cut process. We have all the documents. We've done all the interviews. Now we can release this information. And, I'm just a little concerned about the impact on the process of releasing the documents before we've done the interviews.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a real significant liability issue for us, but okay, Gretchen?
I think I'm going to side with you, Rich, that we should release them as we get them for the most part. I get what Brian's saying, and I think that trying to prevent things we can't really prevent. I mean, people are going to pick this apart regardless of when we release it. And I think that that it's more clean to actually release things, more transparent to release them as we get them, because then the public is seeing things as we are seeing them. So I guess I'm tip to that side of the fence.
Yeah, and certainly we've released the complaint, or it's become public through FOIL. So it's out there. So the allegations are in the public. Yeah.
And people
Well, if-
should pick it apart. I think people should pick it apart, and they might raise questions that we are going to want to entertain in terms of how we want to consider what we have in front of us that we might not have thought about.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get gold stars from everybody, no matter what we do. Somebody's going to tell us we didn't do a very good job. And I think we have to kind of ignore that and just follow our best judgment and do the best we can. Do we want to take a vote on this? Do we want to think about it some more? As I said, I think I know where I'd like to go in terms of making it public, but we need 4 votes to take any action. And if possible, I'd like us to get to consensus, unanimous consensus on what's the best pathway. I would propose that we wait until we get the response from CPE, at least give them a little bit more time. So we have a written response from everybody, and then we disclose at that point. In the meantime, we will be getting we have a draft of a substantive sort of guidepost, as Gretchen was talking about at our last meeting, at least in draft form. I think we'll be able to flesh that out in more detail, and we can proceed from there. And the public will make what they will of what they read. That's what I would propose, if we want to move and second that and take a vote on it. Brian, what do you think? It sounds like you're still thinking, let's wait.
Well, this is my, having been involved with a few of these kind of processes, I would not want to vote against it. That would indicate to people that I'm opposed to transparency. I'm interested in protecting the process so that it is more acceptable to others, because once we release the documents and then we do interviews and people have adjusted their statements relative to the documents, then it gets to be more controversial, I think, because you're going to have, changes in people's inflection on what they've said. So, I would vote in favor of it, but just to indicate that I support transparency. But I'm just concerned about protecting the process going forward.
Yeah, no, and I think those are legitimate concerns, Brian. I'm not suggesting at all that you're not in favor of transparency. I think we all are. It's a question of how soon we make it all public. And I just feel like we've waited so long. The public has waited. I mean, we've had access to this stuff for a while now.
I think that, and I agree with your proposed motion that I think is going to be forthcoming in a few seconds, but I would like to give a deadline for CPE, that if we don't hear from CPE by
End of the week?
whatever, end of the week, we hit go. And that increases transparency as well. And we would make, that would be if it's open to the group, because I think if we continue to wait for CPE, I mean, we're in mid-September already.
I think that's a good point.
To jump to Brian's concerns, what about a proposal whereby we can flag anything that we think might be worth withholding because there could be an impact? And without going into too much detail here in a public forum, I can think of at least one open question that I've seen, that those interview questions, those answers might change in order to bring the stories in line, right? And if that particular piece of information were not put out there as to what somebody else had said, we might get independent recollections of what happened versus, well, this is what so-and-so said, so I think that, that seems to jive with my memory now that I've seen what someone else said.
Okay, that's a good point. We could certainly make this subject to redaction by council. That would, I think, to address some of the concerns we have about. Yeah, Brian?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm want to support this, and I'm just looking to be thoughtful about how we do that. And, it's unfortunate that it's taken several months to get these documents. So we got some documents early on, and then we're getting some later in the, and now we're, haven't got all the documents yet. So, we definitely have not been able to be as transparent as we would like to be because we haven't gotten all the responses. So anyway, I tend to agree with that, and I will support that motion.
Okay, it sounds like we've got consensus, then that's great. So the motion would be wait till the end of the week at least to give CPE a chance to respond. If they don't respond, we would go through with public disclosure of the responses received to date, subject to redaction by council. And if I could get a mover and a seconder.
Move to approve.
Okay, Kate moves,
Second.
Gretchen seconds. All right, any further discussion? Are you ready to vote? I'll call Kate,
Yes.
Gretchen,
Yes.
Sharon,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So, okay, so that's our pathway forward. Thanks for that discussion, everybody.
We never got to vote on the minutes.
Oh, we also have an open motion. I've committed a Robert's Rules of Order faux pas in that we had an open motion. You can only consider one motion at a time, but I hope we'll cure that by voting on the minutes now. If I could call for a vote, Kate,
Yes.
Gretchen,
Yes.
Sharon,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Thank you, Katrina, for correcting one of my many errors. Okay. And next item of business on our agenda is discussion of material received to date. And we've received responses from everybody, I believe, but CPE at this point. And as the discussion just noted, we could get that at any time. So the initial written responses are largely in. And just to make a, again, transparent statement, we've started sending out some letters requesting interviews. And so far, I believe we've made requests to the city of Ithaca and to the co-chairs of the working group. And we're working on determining who would appear and scheduling. So those will be upcoming. And I don't know if anybody else has any other comment on the material we have in front of us. Okay. The next item I'd like to make sure we do is scheduling next meeting, because I would then ask if we could go into executive session to start talking about some of the substance here. But I would not like to take any action after we go into executive session. So if we could get our calendars out and look at when we could next meet. And I think we could do that relatively soon because we should have the last of the responses and we certainly will have information to discuss. So let's see. And it is budget season here at Tompkins County, so my calendar has gotten kind of clogged. I am open, I'll start just to put those out there. I'm open on the 16th, this Friday, next Wednesday, the 21st, and Friday, the 23rd. Do any of those dates work for you guys?
Only the 21st.
The 21st? Brian, Gretchen, Sharon?
I have time on the 21st.
I can do the 21st.
Brian,
Mhm.
Brian's good for the 21st.
Wow. Everybody's available on the 21st. Would 11 o'clock work? Okay. And I would anticipate that our meeting on that date would be a continuation of the discussion we're going to start today on trying to make sense of the material and working through the issues we have to answer and what information we have at this point. We would also be preparing for interviews to come. So, yeah, 11 o'clock on the 21st. I'm not sure there would be much of a public component, but we'd certainly have an opportunity for public comment at that meeting. So, all right, and hopefully everybody's put that on their calendar. All right. Any other business before we consider going into executive session? Seeing none, could I get a motion to go into executive session? And we would not be taking any action after we come out.
Sorry, guys. I was just checking calendars here. I believe both PG and I are going to be in depositions on the 21st. So I know that was a date that worked for everybody, but
I'd be inclined we just continue the discussion. If we need legal comment and advice, we'd reach out to you guys, but
that's fine.
I don't want to slow us down. But
Yep.
Thanks for letting us know.
Sure thing.
And it's good to be busy. So I need a motion to go into executive session and a second.
I move to go into executive session.
And Gretchen, did you second?
Yeah.
All right.
I did.
All right, I'll call the roll on that. Kate,
Yes.
Gretchen,
Yes.
Sharon,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So what we will do is we will shut down the live recording and we will,
You have to state a purpose for
Oh.
your executive session.
thank you again for helping me with making sure we're doing this the proper Robert's Rules of Order way. The purpose is to discuss the substance of the materials we've received and to determine next steps in the investigation and to deliberate. So we'll take a minute to shut down the recording. Everybody voted. Yes.
I mixed it up. Okay. Okay, so minimize here first, and I'm ending stream.
Yep.
And
Close that.
Xing completely.